everyone, and welcome to the Right Views podcast, a podcast about innovative perspective on capitalism, democracy, and geopolitics. I am Prasanna Naidu, lawyer and founder of Budding Lawyers with Rahul Devdar, investor, lawyer, and author of the book Subverting Capitalism and Democracy. Okay, so today we will be talking about Uniform Civil Code. Recently, there is again a buzz around Uniform Civil Code. These debates got triggered after a Delhi High Court judge made a remark related to UCC in a case he was hearing. So let's start. Like, what is a Uniform Civil Code? Like, basically, everyone have heard about it and know that it is a uniform law which is proposed that because it is also under the directive principles of a constitution which says under Article 44, I think, which says that every state must bring this law. Endeavor is the word, if I remember right. So that is there. So a uniform law for everyone throughout the country of India, throughout the territory of India. So let's go a little deeper into it. Like Rahul sir, can you help us with that? Like, what is Uniform Civil Code?
See, Uniform Civil Code is basically comes from the premise that the state and individual, there is a contract between the state and the individual, and the state treats all individuals in the same manner. Now, Indian state does treat all individuals in the same manner. For example, in criminal law, suppose a person commits murder, then irrespective of what his religion, whatever his difference is, he will get certain punishment,
Right.
depending on what the circumstances are. But if two people in the same circumstances have committed the same, a murder, both will get the same punishment. That's what Indian state promises. This whole thing is acceptable very easily in most of the conditions of law. Like, for example, when you buy a house, you will sign an agreement and you will pay the money and you will pay default. If you default, you will pay interest, everything. All of these things everyone agrees to in the country. The problem comes in personal laws. Now, personal laws, when Indian Constitution was written, personal laws were given some protection. So Hindus have their own personal laws, Muslims have their own personal laws, Christians have their own personal laws, and Parsis have their own personal laws. Now, personal laws basically refer to three areas. One is marriage, divorce, and succession, and adoption, basically, if you count the fourth one. But these are the four basic concepts which are covered by personal laws, which are treated differently for different individuals based on their religion. Now, in general, this creates a conflict because the state has to ask you, what is your religion? Suppose your religion is
Hindu. It is purely discriminatory.
It is discriminatory. It is ideally it is not, because see, this is what happens when the concept of Western contractual nature of state, which is state. See, Western principles have a concept where the state is created out of a contract between all the citizens. So America was created out of a contract with all the landowners, which they signed into as a Declaration of Independence, which became their constitution. And the constitution is the contract which governs everyone in America. So if tomorrow you go to America and become a citizen there, the American constitution doesn't look at you as a Hindu, Muslim, whatever your religion is. It simply gives that what is given in the contract is the constitution. And the constitution is the contract between you and the state. That's all. It doesn't matter what you think, what doesn't. It's a simple thing. In Indian Indic system, the state has to alter its duty to the individual based on him. So its state's duty to farmer is different. State's duty to moneylender is different. State's duty to a mother is different. State's duty to a child is different. Okay. So in this is Indic system. And when India became free, our ethos is Indic system. But Indic system means the Indic system we are talking about is the Hindu system, okay, which has got the similar ethos. Now, when you apply this Indic system to a religion-based system, you create all sorts of mess.
Yes.
So now this constitution was applied to different religions as a concept ki we will treat each religion according to their principle. Now, suppose I am a Zoroastrian who doesn't like Zoroastrian faith. I am, let's say, atheist.
Yeah.
I will still be treated as Zoroastrian for no fault of mine.
Okay. Okay.
Meaning, I cannot disown. So, atheist means what will atheist do? So, should I use Christian law? Should I use Hindu law? There is no such thing. You will be treating me as a Zoroastrian, Parsi, basically. If
So
I am a
basically,
Muslim, same.
there are no laws for atheists, right? Even
Yes,
if
I mean, if you,
technically, if we see the Special Marriage Act can be applied to them, right?
yes, Special Marriage Act. But what about distribution of
Succession.
property
Right.
between my children? I am atheist. They think one thinks he is Hindu, one thinks he is Buddhist. Both are, I mean, considered as per Hindu law. But one thinks he is Christian,
Yeah.
one thinks he is Muslim, one thinks he is Zoroastrian. So I have 4 kids, each of different religion. I am atheist. So how will you distribute my property?
Right.
So all these questions come because now, see, now what we are going to is a limiting condition. This is called a boundary condition of any contract. So this typically happens when you try to define a contract in such rigidity, okay, that you can't understand the boundary condition. So when the boundary, you reach the boundary. So for example, this is if you understand, if you remember the story of Narsimha, okay. So Hiranyakashipu, he said a very very detailed contract. Okay, not morning, not evening, not this, not that, this, that, not man, not beast, not with weapon, not with this, all sorts of things. And then all these conditions, there was a out. Okay.
Yeah.
And that is the boundary condition, and then that boundary condition materialized in a form of Lord Narsimha, which is neither man nor beast, nor morning, nor evening, nor weapon, nor thing, is a claw, and then nor in sky, nor in this, on his,
Yeah.
yeah. So all these things were met. So there will always be this kind of situation. Okay. Now the question is, when these kinds of situation happens, is it an outlier? Okay, it can be outlier. So that is not the question. The question is, as the country grows, as the country integrates, you will have more and more such situations. This will be a norm rather than a exception. And how to deal with them. So, for example, if I have truly a freedom of religion, and I have converted into atheist, and in our example, and all my kids have their own freedom of religion, and they have converted into 4 different religions, and their children now convert to atheism or converse religion. So the father's religion is different from the child's, mother's religion is different from the child's religion. Then how will you apply? And all these complications will come into play. Suppose the child marries after, changes the religion after marriage, then what will you happen? So all these kinds of questions, to avoid and make it simple, to make a straightforward contract between the state and the citizen, this is Uniform Civil Code is the answer. So no matter, and this is very simple in marriage. Suppose person gets married, he gets married as per the Hindu rites or religious process and all the things he done. Now in Bengal's religion process is different from Delhi's religious process of getting married. The ceremony is different. In Rajasthan it is different. In Tamil Nadu it is different. So all over the place it's different. In Northeast it's completely different. Okay. So in all these, if you have different kinds of religion, does it change the marriage? No. The rule is that whatever religious ceremony you perform, you register the marriage and declare it in the form that is given. Now that form is same for everyone.
Hmm.
The form doesn't change. You say, who is the husband? This fellow is the husband. Who is the wife? This fellow is the this lady is the wife. This is their photo. This is their whatever nowadays Aadhaar card. So these two people are now married, and that is recorded by the state.
Okay.
That's all. Now this process is on top of your ceremony. Okay, so people don't have any problem. People say, yeah, वो marriage register करना है. Let's go to the register of marriage and register it. Simple. So people don't have a problem with that. So it's only an additional procedure for marriage, because you can now some people get married in Christian ceremony, wife is Christian, so Christian ceremony, husband is Hindu, so Hindu ceremony, then
Some people
all
do
mixed
both.
ceremonies, do both ceremonies, and all third ceremony we also like to be natural or something under the ocean, in the sky, parachute marriage and all that. So they will do all sorts of things. Okay, but at the end of it, the state doesn't have any reason to say ki this is good or this is bad. State should not interfere in those. But the state says ki after you do all that thing,
Hmm.
you make sure you sign this form, which is same for all Indians. This is the form 12 or something, you can say. Ki this is form, and this
So
form has to be
basically,
submitted.
state is saying don't increase our complications. You do whatever you want to. But as far as governing is concerned, let's make it simple, right?
Exactly. And that makes it simpler, because now the citizen knows what is the right protected by the state. So
Right.
when you go to the state, you know that because my marriage is registered and this is my document and it
Hmm.
is properly registered. So now the state knows that I am married. It doesn't matter whether I performed the religious ceremony or did not perform. I have this document which states that I am married.
Okay,
Okay.
but so anyway, we have uniform laws for all like criminal matters, even most of the
Exactly.
civil matters. Only these
Like
four
contracts.
things, right? Contracts and other civil matters.
Yes.
So apart from these four things, as you said, marriage, adoption, succession, divorce, these things are governed by personal laws. So don't you think that there would be some reason for that? When the even in the constitution, there are provisions for certain tribes in northeast like Nagaland, Mizoram, etc., where their customs are to be followed and not a uniform law is to be imposed on them. So don't you think there must be some reason to keep this as they are right now? Otherwise, the Constitution Assembly would have already got a uniform civil code. And why was it not formed then? And why do we need it now? Can't we just keep these things separate? Because even people want it. Like for example, there are many people who are not ready, not don't like this uniform civil code in terms of these personal laws. For example, there are many Muslim organizations who are standing against it. So why can't we keep these four things aside?
See, that's a good question, because so there are two questions that you asked. One is that why did the Constituent Assembly keep it aside? Okay,
Hmm.
so let's answer that. See,
Hmm.
the thing is, at that point, India was. See, people today take take for granted that India is, people have understood that India has been a nation since the time of, or before the time of Chanakya. In 1947, there was a lot of misinformation, because of which um, the divisiveness created by the British, and we had just gone through a partition. So there was a lot of doubt about the future of the country. Okay. Now, the founders thought that it is better to take a conservative approach. So in many cases, if you see, the founders have erred on the side of caution. So it's not just this personal loss, but in many cases. Now, the idea was simply that first let us integrate and come together collectively as a country, which was divided. Then they divided the country based on languages and all this, and states were created out of language, which also created division. Now there were logic to it, and there was some, see, every the minute you become free, you have to make decisions.
Hmm.
Okay, so each decision has a positive and a negative, and there are alternatives, and you have to choose some alternative. Okay, so some of the choices they made, good or bad, whatever they felt it was right, they made the choices. And now that the choices are made, we have to face, there every choice has a pro and a con. Okay, so we are facing some of these cons. So, but it was done with good intent. That is one, definitely. When they started out, they did not say, ki, "Well, let's do this so that this will break India apart." This is not the thought that they went about. They said, ki, let's do this. Once the integration, let's work on the integration. The more integrated the country, will change these laws as and when we go. That was the broad idea. There were two, three things that were happening simultaneously. One is that Indian society had become stagnant, and lot of reformative ideas were being blocked during early period. Okay. Now, whatever you want to call it, today we call some trads and rads. I don't know what their modern terminology is. A little confusing for me. But any interference in the religion was taken as a international issue of sorts, or human rights issue of sorts. And to avoid all that, because that is the critical phase where the country is still getting the process together. So in fact, one of the reasons why our constitution is sort of a extension of the British Government of India Act 1935 is because of that. We did not want to change everything at one go because it's ungovernable if it's because of the scale of the country.
Right.
So you cannot imagine how difficult it is to manage a country of that scale with so poor resources and virtually no communication. Everything has to be on a letter. So which means you can imagine what will happen, or telegram. So God forbid if there has to be some national policy, and by the time it reaches government office from Delhi, it starts and reaches to Thiruvananthapuram government office, the meaning of it completely changes because it's on telegram, short telegram, some word is missing, that this. So it was ungovernable based on the technology then. Today we are in a much more progressive society. Also, there was a lot of social discussion going on about the reforms to bring in different religions, in the society itself. Okay, so if you see, this was the time when I'm talking about 1910, 1920s, 1930s, where Savarkar was doing his untouchability thing, to remove, discard untouchability. He was opening up temples. Gandhiji was doing things for untouchables. So these kinds of social challenges were being rectified. There were lots of other discriminatory practices. So if let's say you from Mumbai goes into Calcutta, you will be discriminated against. Those essential, because you don't know Bengali, or you know Bengali but you are not from Bengal. So Bengal for Bengalis. So but you speak Bengali but you are not a Bengali. Are you Bengal? Are you Bengal for Bengalis? Are you qualified or not qualified? So this all became, so are you a Bengali? So Bengali means who is Bengali? That became a question. So all these sorts of things became had to be first understood and resolved before we address the bigger challenges, which is which is the last bit of social challenge. So the idea is that first you resolve within themselves, and then so each religion within itself gets reformed. and then the religions amongst themselves get reformed.
Okay.
So this was the idea.
Yeah. So we got to know about the state's approach, why it was, and why they took such decision at that time. So, coming to the second question, why do we think like it is very necessary? Can't we keep, because anyway, even if we have uniform laws for other things, things are already complicated there too. So it's not like it's very simple there. So why not keep these personal laws aside? Because even many people want it.
Suppose it is my custom to beat my wife. Okay, it is
Hmm.
customary in our tribe or whatever part I am belonging to. In our customs, beating the wife is one of the custom.
Hmm.
Now, is it a criminal offense? Is it a civil offense? It is a religious offense? How will you classify? So this is only adding to complexity. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
this is not detracting, or the idea. What you're saying is, let's not make it more complicated, which is fine. But the way to make it more complicated goes back to the principle of the state. So, what is the principle of the state? State should not look at you as a religious person. State should differentiate between a citizen and a non-citizen. That's it. It doesn't matter who is a citizen, who is not citizen. Suppose you are any religion. If you're not getting water, you come to state and state is not giving you water. State must give you water. It doesn't matter if you are whichever religion you are. Doesn't matter what your belief is.
So you are saying the state must stick to the secular nature.
So state has got no business of looking at a person differently.
But
In
it
fact, they are
already does,
trying
na?
to.
It already
It
does in
already
many provisions. Like, for example, they are allowed to establish religious institutions. State even funds them. So it is anyway
no,
doing it.
Indian state looks at religion differently. Okay,
Hmm.
the state should not look at any person in any different way. In fact, in one side, we are saying that state should not differentiate between a man and a woman.
Hmm.
Okay,
Right.
because state it doesn't matter. What does it matter?
Hmm.
If you are not getting water versus some lady is not getting water, state should not get into, you are a man, you should get water, or you should not get water. First, ladies, state should not think who applied first. You applied first, then you should get water first. Second, she should get. Third, whoever is the in the line, you go first, one, two, three, and go apply, right?
Yeah. You will be exempted
So
only if you have a letter from the MLA.
that we cannot really help, but but there, in fact, even US constitution has got problems there. So I mean, those are future problems for us. But what I'm saying is, at least, so in this one side, we are saying the state should not discriminate between man and a woman. State should not, like, for example, if let's say you break a signal versus a lady breaks a signal, who gets more fine?
Both must
You
be
get
safe.
more fine
Okay.
under current process.
Oh,
Okay.
no. Is that so?
I mean, I'm not talking legally. Legally, the
Okay.
fine is same.
Legally,
But
yeah.
the policeman says, it happened to
Okay,
me.
okay. So you got a good example. So I was just reading about this, and I came to know that when Motor Vehicles Act was amended recently, the Union government amended, but many state government did not take that, did not accept that law, and they made amendments in their. So state have these rights too, like they can accept whatever law the Union government is passing and also reject it or make amendments, so many amendments to that union law that it's almost like a completely different law in that particular state. Then, even if we have this uniform code, will it help to any large extent?
See, the thing is, first of all, you have to understand, that brings me to another part of the equation, is how to create this change. Whatever laws you want to build, any change requires a build-up of narrative, exploration of alternatives, debate, and in today's media, there is no chance of debate. Okay, The debate we are talking about is not the Arnab Goswami debate or whatever goes on in TV channels. That is not debate. That is war of words. Okay. That doesn't change anyone's mind, or that doesn't give us an insight into what are the challenges. So, in any case, this is not the debate that we are talking about, but there has to be some sort of a dialogue between the society and the government, saying that these are the alternatives. This is why we need to, you know, make these changes. So, first of all, why do we need a change? So, let's say if you first, like what we said, if there are boundary conditions where people are integrating. Okay, is it good or not? People are integrating, people are changing their religions, people are expressing themselves, people are adding into their own, intermarrying, mingling. They are trying to get different things going. Is it good or bad? It is good. The society is being integrated. So some fellow from north is marrying some girl from south, some girl from north is marrying boy from south, east, west. All these people are happy. To facilitate that, we need to have a uniform civil code, which in which we are not facilitating. Now, if we say that if to facilitate, again there will be a problem. So we cannot say we are facilitating or not. But in this process, state should stand apart. Okay, state should not be encouraging or discouraging. Whatever you have to do is you have to do. So state should treat everyone equally, so that the nature of contract. So when you have kids, there is no confusion. Whenever there is a succession right, there is no confusion. Everyone knows that, boss, in India, if this happens, then the property is divided this way. Today, what happens? Ki, okay, sir, my clients come. My mother passed away. So what is the procedure? So first question I have to ask: when did she pass away? Okay, when was she born? When was she married? Which religion was she? After all this, which religion are you? All these questions, and then you say, okay, now we apply for succession certificate. After that succession certificate, you go to the bank. You say, I want to get the money from my mother's account. I am the only person who is left surviving. So if this is the process, then what happens? The bank says first you apply. So you apply. Then the bank gives you one form. Then you fill that form. Then the bank, you give that form, you can no, give it in triplicate, because it has to go to the register of birth, this, that, 15 places it has to go. Then you give it in triplicate, he gives you 5 more forms. You say, why? No, this is for your religious person, this is there, all these nonsense is there. And then you have to give a declaration that I'm the only person. Then bank has its own weird ways. Suppose you are you, how to verify you are you? Suppose tomorrow another Prasanna Naidu comes up saying, where is my mother's money? And what will bank do? So all these things they have to take care. Okay. So it becomes a nightmare. Okay. So instead of that, the state should make a simple promise. If the mother passes away and there's only one legal, representative for this lady, or if any parent, if any person passes away and you got one, automatically these things happen. If there are 2, it is half half. If there are 3, it is 1/3 1/3. It's like no, it's a simple logic. पार्टी में केक का बंटवारा इजीली होता है, और इधर प्रॉपर्टी का बंटवारा is like 50 years it's still pending. This tree is in his part or my part, because this is a better tree, whereas the other tree is not so good. So which is in whose part? So all this will be avoided. Okay, now if we start the discussion, if we start a proper debate, and if we explain that we have a test case, Goa already has had a civil code.
I was
Okay.
coming to that. I was coming to that. So
Ah.
you whatever you said, broadly it looks very good. Okay. But as you said, Goa already has this uniform civil code, but it is not so uniform as it sounds. So because Goa also has this Gentile Hindu usages and customs of Goa Act. So Hindus are exempted from that uniform code for certain things. So if this kind of uniform code comes and there will be exemptions for the different types of people for different kinds of things, then it will increase the complexity instead of making it less complex. Right? What do you think about that?
Exactly. So I'm not saying that is an ideal case, but we find what are the challenges in those conditions as a starting point. Now, when we look at it as a test case, see when you make any law and you say ki, this law has to be applied, you can't randomly go about and apply the law. You have to see what happens. And generally what the way it is applied is ki there is a sandbox approach. So let's try this out in one state. Okay, let's try this out in one particular state where it is easy to manage, and then see what happens. And then after 5 years we say ki, okay, this uh, is the test case that we had put up, this was the limitations, this was the development, and these are the challenges we face, this is the resolution of these challenges, now this act is ready to be applied across the country. This is what a mature decision making looks like. But in our country, if we try to go for this, we'll never get anything done. Okay, because what will happen is Modi government will say, ki, okay, let's apply for uniform civil code, let's do Karnataka as a test case, or take any state and start as test case, and then we apply the uniform civil code there and check what happens. By the time the case for national application comes in, the Modi government is gone. And the promise of the whatever government is that we will undo what Modi government did. That's the way they will work. So the opposition is not a good opposition, which is aiming for the development of the country. So that's why in India's particular case, it has become what it is called a straight chop off rather than a gradual approach. In ideal, see, GST also, if we would have started something simple, okay, let's apply this GST for 4 goods and see nationally what happens. So create a national market for 4 goods
Right,
and see.
right.
And then add more goods, keep adding, and then do it. But to create that infrastructure, GST council banana hai and all this stuff is such a big thing ki by the time you implement it, your government is no longer there. The other party has made a promise ki we will undo this and we will revert to the old not 19 also, 1856 ka jo provision hai, that we will enforce. That is the true law. This is what our politics is. So this is not a developmental politics. This is dragging politics. It means to drag India down. And that's why if you have a developmental idea, you have to execute it in one sweep. You cannot do a gradual, small cut approach. So unfortunately, this is our reality. So one fine day we will wake up, today uniform civil code is applied, and it will create a big chaos because it has to. Any law, okay, anything, nothing, have you done anything which is 100% correct in the first go? If you want to bake a cake also, there will be mistakes. Your cake, like you follow the recipe in the recipe book and the exact cake comes out. I have never seen that happen.
Right.
1/4 of this, 1/4 you measure like a test tube, you take 1/4 exactly, and still that cake, whatever comes out, doesn't come out.
Right. By the way,
So-
too many cake examples to me. Is it your
Yeah.
or something?
So my point is, ki, in this kind of scenario where the thing is so complicated as a law,
Hmm.
and in India there are so many complications that it's unbelievably complex. Okay,
Right.
so when you say ki there is one, like except for Islam, everyone has this. Ki only one person is married to only one person. Okay, you are not allowed to have multiple partners. There are cases with multiple partners, and they are in agreement. It's not that they are, in conflict.
Hmm.
This is not an example of cheating that I'm giving.
Right.
They are living together, and now it's a question of, so these people, to such people, I tell them, why don't you make a will? But then when you make a will, the will gets challenged in the court saying ki this is illegal, that is illegal. Then, what is this? So then it again drags on. So the point is ki in India, the reality of people is way different from the reality of what the parliamentarians believe. So you cannot make a law which is taking into considerations everyone's faith, everyone's customs, everyone's this, everyone's preference. No, you have to say ki the state will do only this. If you want something else, you do it yourself. If you want to have 5 partners, we don't care so long as they are not complaining. This is the famous Dharmendra case, right? One person filed a Supreme Court saying that Dharmendra has done second marriage. You put him in jail, which is true. He's done a second marriage, but the court asked him, "What is your locus standing? Who are you to question? Are you one of the wives? Then one of the wives can question. They are not questioning. Who are you?" So this kind of thing happens in everything. Okay, so we cannot simply uh, say, or the state cannot say, ki, okay, I will have to make a law for actors who have multiple wives. I will have to make another law for actors who keep divorcing wives after every 15 years or so. We cannot do that. The state has to make a simple, straightforward law which is easy for everyone to understand. And the whole idea of law is everyone knows the law. This is an assumption, right? You know the law.
Actually, we don't.
We don't because it's so complicated.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, everyone knows that if you murder someone, you are going to jail. Okay, that much everyone knows.
Hmm.
So everyone should know the consequence of these laws, and for that, laws should be simple. They cannot be complicated. They cannot be so complicated that even if you want to, take a photo, you have to go and seek a lawyer's advice. Can I take a photo? Is this allowed? That is allowed. Is that sign a non-disclosure agreement, pay the lawyer fees, and register it. Have you registered it? It's not registered, so it's of no value. Go on. So these kinds of things cannot happen. The law has to be simple, and everyone has to understand it that this is the law. Now you do whatever you want, but this is what will be enforced. That's the simple thing. So Uniform Civil Code is a great idea, and unfortunately in India we'll have to slam dunk execute it in one go, and then the courts will give their own interpretation. There will be a challenge. Giving. Let's make a forecast right away. The day central government passes Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha together, they pass this, Uniform Civil Code law, whichever day that is. The next day there will be a PIL in Supreme Court that it is unconstitutional or it touches the basic structure of the Constitution, and the court will have to decide, and court will then get a power to implement or not implement the Uniform Civil Code, which is the, Parliament is basically the mind of the people, right?
Hmm.
So few judges will get an opportunity to overrule the rule of Parliament, which is the mind of the entire country, which is the will of the people, will of the entire country.
Hmm. Okay, so let's hope that uniform civil code comes and the code is not discriminatory as it has been. Like a code is actually in practice uniform for everyone, and it is not implemented as GST was, unfortunately. Though the intentions were very good.
GST, I mean, in a way, GST was fine because GST is something which will keep iterating. It's not,
It can't
UCC
be
cannot,
standard for.
it cannot be, and it has to be iterated into a standard way. All countries have done that. Uniform Civil Code cannot be iterated because then it will create even more complications. Where
Yes.
you born before 2025, because then UCC 1 will apply. If 2025 later, then UCC 2 will apply. If 2035 later, then UCC 3. Then even bigger mess. Get it right once and close it. Now state will only have this rule. Now you do what you want. We don't care. I think that's a better approach.
Okay, guys. So these are our views. Are they right views? That you decide. And let us know. You can reach out to us on Twitter, Instagram, and also on YouTube. So do check out our other previous episodes too. And stay tuned for future episodes.
Thank you.